and one that we've got to address, and I'm glad to have put forth some legislation, hopefully to address a specific area of the illegal criminals who are here.
And within that argument of illegal criminals, it has to be a discussion of sanctuary cities, much like what I like to call the place where I live, the People's Republic of New York City, where we have the mayor, Bill de Blasio, allocating $60 million to create a municipal ID to allow illegal immigrants to, quote-unquote, come out of the shadows. Do you feel that cities like New York, like San Francisco, should be catering and providing these privileges to illegal immigrants?
Absolutely not. We've got nearly 300 sanctuary cities across the country, and these cities absolutely refuse to comply with requirements of the law and those who have been detained by ICE. And, at the end of the day, these cities are protecting illegal aliens, and they are putting the lives of innocent Americans in danger by shielding them, even criminals who are here illegally. And so I think absolutely this is something we've got to address. In the House, we actually passed the Enforce the Law for Sanctuary Cities Act, which would withhold federal grants from states and cities who are refusing to comply with federal enforcement efforts. But, this is an issue that is huge and one that sooner than later we need to deal with.
Absolutely. Now, we haven't really gotten political in the discussion. We've kind of kept it limited to the goings-on in Congress. I do want to get into one point of perception with regards to Congress, and it was brought up during the hearings by a fellow member of your committee, talking about confidence in government. Do you feel that Americans are justified in having a crisis of confidence when it comes to the federal government, especially in light of what we saw this week with Director Comey's recommendation?
Well, sure. I think that's what sparks the lack of confidence in government. We see things like this where all appearances, at least the optics, if not the reality of the situation, gives the appearance at least that Lady Justice has taken the blinders off of her eyes, and she is choosing to determine who must abide by the law and who is able to get away with breaking the law. And it's these type of things that create great anger and anxiety, and rightfully so, among the American people. We are to be a land of justice for all, and that's exactly why Lady Justice has the blinders on. We are to be impartial as to who it is that is facing the law and the consequences thereof. And when things like this happen, it creates a great angst among the American people, and very understandably so.
Well, we want to get the word out that you're one of the good guys in Congress, sir, especially, in watching you today and in getting to know you and your record. We here at the show, we know that money and people is what makes politics go round, and that you have a re-election campaign coming up as well. I'll make sure that people know how to find you on social media and to find your donate page and all that stuff.
Great to be with you. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it as well. And that was our complete interview with Congressman Jody Hice from the great state of Georgia. No, I'm not making fun of you guys. I'm just trying to fit in for you guys listening at WJHC 107.5 FM on the Florida-Georgia line. I got to get my drawl down, so I'm going to keep on practicing with it. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be talking with our friends from the Remembrance Project, Maria Espinoza and Julie Golovach, Gene Baradelli behind enemy lines. We'll be back right after these brief words. If you're a long-time listener of the show, or maybe this is your first time listening, you can probably tell that me and the gang here, we like to have our share of fun, whether it's on or off the air. We talk about 2-drink minimum radio and no medication Wednesdays or whatever day it may be. That's why when we found the people at Less Government, More Fun, we knew it was a match made in heaven with this show. Folks, we live in a time where government is out of hand. Our founding fathers did not intend government to be all-consuming in all parts of our lives. That's why we are telling you to go to lessgovmorefun.com, check out the website, check out the swag. What the people want is less government, more fun. Pass it on, make it happen.
Who might you save? Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is all about being right. No, seriously, it is. If you ever listen to Russ Gallo or me go back and forth on some issue, we always want to make sure that we remember who said what and when we said it. That's why we go to goonrecord.com. It's a brand new social media website. Challenge people on what they believe, whether it's in politics, sports, entertainment, finance, whatever. There's a category for you at goonrecord.com. Check it out right now. Tell us, what do you stand for? It's time for you to go on record. Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air. Gene Baradelli, back behind Enemy Lines. Glad you guys are joining us for the whole show. It's just about halftime here on the show. I want to thank everybody for listening to us. Check us out at www.behindenemylinesradio.us. Check us out on the Facebooks and the Twitters at BEL_radio. And in case you're listening to us live on Spreaker, I'm glad that you're with us, hopefully in the chat room hanging out with us. But if you're not, you can check us out on any one of our rebroadcast outlets, including WJHC 107.5 FM on the Florida-Georgia line. Of course, they're part of the Red Nation Rising Radio Network. You can catch us on there as well, online and on terrestrial radio. K98 Talk, High Plains Talk Radio, and Sackheads Media, and ICRN, the Internet Conservative Radio Network. I almost didn't get it out there, but I got it anyway. And if you miss us on any one of those rebroadcast outlets, you can check us out on any number of our podcasting on-demand outlets, including iTunes, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbay, Player FM, iHeartRadio, and you can discover us on Google Play Music. The podcast section over there is actually growing. It's very, very cool, folks. You should check it out. Gonna bring it back to a promise I made to our listeners to bring more interviews from the Hold Their Feet to the Fire event that was held about 2-3 weeks ago in D.C. And I wanted to talk to you all about a great organization called the Remembrance Project that is highlighting the struggle of the families of victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants, violent crimes, in fact. And their stories are gripping. Their stories are... they're so emotional. And we had the pleasure to speak to Maria Espinoza, who is one of the principals of the organization, to explain the great work that they're doing. They're based out of Texas, but they have chapters in many different states across the nation, 28 in fact. And Julie, her son Spencer... Well, you know what? Let's let Julie tell the story about what happened to her son Spencer. And if you're not feeling a whole range of emotions from sadness to anger, hopefully enough so to motivate you into doing something after this interview, if you're not feeling any of those emotions, then you must really have a heart of stone, and I feel bad for you. Here's Julie's take about what happened to her son Spencer in her own words.
He was actually just sitting at a red light, and the illegal alien pulled up next to him and shot him in the head. He was 2 of 4 people that were killed that night, and my son had just dropped off his girlfriend from a date and told her, goodbye, I love you, see you tomorrow, and 10 minutes later he was dead. He was doing just an ordinary thing that most Americans do, and it could have been anyone, but that night it was my son.
And the perpetrator, Victor Rodriguez, an illegal alien from Mexico, he had a violent history, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He had spent time in Hidalgo County, which is on the border of Texas, for burglary, assault, and in fact, one of the times when he was in prison, he beat up a rival gang member, and he should have received a 20-year sentence, but the state of Texas pleaded down to 5 years. If he would have even been given half of the time, my son would still be alive to this day. The illegal alien had been deported 4 times and was living comfortably in Houston, Texas, where he killed my son.
And we're so sorry about that. Maria, this is something that is repeated over and over again in stories that you document through the project. It has to be a heart-wrenching task to be able to bring awareness to these senseless deaths.
Oh, it absolutely is, and they're horrific stories. Like Julie talked about her son, her only child, and here, he was to be her anchor. And where does that leave our families? And there are tens of thousands of Americans. We don't have that number? We don't have that number actually. Because our federal government is not wanting us to know. We could easily keep those stats. But, we're talking about Houston here, but all the way up in Council Bluff, Iowa, a 93-year-old woman was beaten, raped, killed by an illegal alien that had been in the country for 6 months. Louise Sullivan, a 19-year-old. We're looking at Parker Moore in Oregon. Going to the convenience store in line to pay for a product, and an illegal alien walked up unprovoked and stabbed him to death. These all can be avoided. These families are permanently separated from their loved ones, and all this could have been avoided if only current laws were upheld, borders secured.
Are you not angry right now, hearing all of this?
I am more sad right now than angry, but the anger is coming. The anger is coming.
I'm enraged, and I have to imagine that as you guys travel the country and spread the word, that average Americans are sharing in this anger. I mean, Donald Trump wasn't wrong with what he said. We are not necessarily getting the best and brightest from other countries coming here. They're not all coming here for good. What happened to the days, and the left uses this saying all the time, we should ban guns, because if we could save just one life, it'll make it all worth it.
Right.
Well, what about this topic? I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Exactly. And again, innocent Americans. And you're right, Russ. He wasn't wrong. And when Mr. Trump last year, said those words, well, we went out and told our families and our state directors in 28 states and asked them to support his words. The Remembrance Project will not endorse him because we're C3, 501c3. However, our families certainly can, and they absolutely can speak to what he is talking about, and he has invited them on stage in some of his rallies. You've seen them in several places, and he has privately met with them in several states as well. We were fortunate enough to have opened up for him in Anaheim.
Yeah, and for the people listening to this show, this topic affects real people. We're not talking only about the guy you see cutting your neighbor's grass. This is not. This is an issue that is affecting real people. We're reading through this booklet, which we're going to tell people how to get copies of this information.
Yeah, and as we thumb through it, it goes across a swath of
But
American
it's astonishing.
society,
You're looking at young and old, men and women. It's insane. You could probably hear it in my voice how choked up I'm getting. I'm angry. And for those of you who think idiotic things like, well, it's racist to be against immigration. Well, listen. There's an assimilation process, or at least there used to be. You can't just pour millions of people into this country and not allow them time to assimilate. They have different views from their own country regarding law enforcement officers, the government, because where they come from, those institutions are more corrupt than they are here, believe it or not. So they don't share in our value. So every once in a while you hear a police officer getting killed by an illegal immigrant because where they come from, police are not respected.
And the other thing is, an issue like this doesn't become foremost in your brain until you, unfortunately, are sitting in Julie's seat. Right. That's the biggest problem.
Yes, and I'm sorry, I want you guys to jump in here, but another thing that you hear people say all the time will be, well, what does it matter if the person was illegal? It was a crime anyway. Yeah, but let's start reducing the number of those people that are committing crimes. There's a variable we can slice out of the equation.
We have enough crime committed by our
homegrown
citizens.
Criminals.
Exactly. So, and like Julie said, if this illegal alien was not in our country, Spencer would still be alive. And this is what we're talking about. All of these killings, and we only deal with killings. We're not talking about the rape and child molestation, which is high in that demographic that we've also uncovered, but and the crimes and bodily harm that have come to people who have survived.